Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the first of our podcast thingies. And
well, that's shit as well.
Okay.
We're off to a bad start.
Well, we are off to a bad start.
I think
let's just keep going. This
is
is the first of our podcasts, which we don't have a title for, but we probably will by the time you see it.
Yeah, this is more like a pilot more than anything else. Yeah. We just want to try something different, see how it goes.
Like any pilot, it may be the first of many, or it may be the last of one.
Yeah, indeed. And really, what are we looking to do today, then, Ewok?
I thought we'd just talk about games like we normally do.
Yeah, just without actually having to worry about the distraction of trying to play something and comment on what's happening.
Well, let's kick off with a popular game at the moment. A bit of a resurgence for it, and that would be Grand Theft Auto 5.
Aye.
Recently released on the PC in all its glory, more glorious than ever before.
Yeah.
You've got it.
I certainly do. I've picked it up on PC. I originally played the PS3 version.
I also played the PS3 version.
Yeah, we played a little bit of online together. I did impulse buy a PS4, as regular visitors to the channel know.
As did you.
And I was tempted to pick it up for the PS4, and we have got a mutual friend, like another very close mate of the pair, who is playing it on the PS4, and at some point I'll probably end up buying it on the PS4 as well, I think, just so I can play with him.
Well, unless you've been logged into the PS4 at the same time as me recently, you probably won't know, but I recently got it on the PlayStation 4.
There we go.
So we get to talk about my PS4 experience versus your PC experience.
Cool. Okay.
Now, I'm a PC gamer primarily. I would have bought it on PC. The fact of the matter is, I took a whole bunch of old games, DVDs and Blu-rays down to Granger Games. They offered me a lot more than what I was expecting. I was expecting 20 quid. They said, we'll give you 55 quid store credit. So I got myself GTA 5 and Far Cry 4.
Nice.
I've been playing it. And what are the differences between what we'll call new generation Grand Theft Auto 5 versus
it's
old
horrible.
generation?
It's horrible to try and label these different things, but certainly I think, don't get us wrong, I think on the PS3, I think, the graphics were really kind of pushing what was capable.
It was really
with the PS4. You got
really pretty, but you always felt it was really at the edge of the hardware.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was like my PS4 just being like a bit old and battered because I've had it for a lot of years, and I was thinking it's a bit rickety. But the game at times when things were busy was a bit choppy.
I think it was the combination of really, really crisp, high-resolution graphics restricted to a low frame rate. And I think that's what made it unusual, because you had almost sort of PC-like quality graphics, but limited by a frame rate restriction that you wouldn't normally see with that level of resolution.
Aye, and it was, don't get us wrong, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought like the story, the gameplay, I thought was really, really good, and it did look good for a PS3 title. But certainly, I think what I've noticed on playing it on my PC is the enhanced textures look absolutely incredible. I mean, obviously, I use the PC that I'm out in the world here. It's a beastie machine, so I can play with everything maxed out on 1080p, and I'm still getting really, really good frame rates on it. I sometimes get a dip when I'm in the city, but you know what? It looks incredible, and that sort of increased frame rate really does it makes a difference. And I'm not like an FPS whore. I'm not somebody that's like, why does this game only play at 25 FPS? I want 27, or
that's a really bad example.
Yeah,
but I get where you're
I'm not somebody that's like, I need if I spend 4 hours tweaking this config file, I can get an extra 2 FPS. I'm not that person. Like no. I've had PCs that have been well past that kind of the functional use, where I'm chugging along with games in like the low 20 frames per second, and I'm not saying it's nice, but I'm comfortable with that.
Well, in terms of the games that came with my PS4, I got Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2, the Scholar of the First Sin edition.
Yeah.
Feeling the date on that in terms of graphics, although it is a step up from the original Dark Souls 2 experience. Bloodborne, very pretty game, but Grand Theft Auto is a step above in terms of graphic, which is what you would expect from a huge scale developer like Rockstar.
And huge budget, loads of time.
Yeah. Now, I have to say that I've seen you play it on the PC, and yeah, your PC blows the PS4 graphics out of the water.
Aye.
But that said, I mean, if you look at original GTA 5 and PC GTA 5, I'd say that the PS4 is probably sort of about the 70% mark in terms of improvement between the two, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Very badly explained. I suppose one of the big introductions to Grand Theft Auto 5 is first-person mode.
Yeah.
Have you been playing with first-person mode? What do you think of it?
I have. It was one of the kind of the feature that really kind of drew us back into buying the same game again. I really liked the idea of it. I'd seen a couple of Let's Players that kind of like dipped into it just before I picked the thing up myself. Yeah, really, really like it. What I find is it works really, really well when you're walking around. When you're walking around the city and just experiencing it. If you're sitting in traffic in your car, and the other thing is there's way more traffic, I'm noticing, than I was getting on the PS3.
Absolutely, there's a lot more vehicles.
It feels like a city. You sit in traffic jams. You've got to weave your way through
cars. Not only
is
there more vehicles, but there's more variation in the vehicles. I always find that the game would sort of load 2 or 3 cars, and then you'd see nothing but those 2 or 3 cars.
It's something that it kind of stuck with us, and it's something that's been like in GTA for a long time. But it always kind of like it felt as though it was almost like a kind of under the table joke. You know, the idea of like my missus bought a new Corsa, and then every other car you see is the same coloured Corsa. So I always quite like that. But actually, it does make a huge difference. You go into a parking lot, and there's 30 cars that are all totally different. Even just like variations of the same models, different colours, different body kits on, all that kind of governs. I find the immersion factor in first person is incredible. I love it, and I love it for the shooting sequences as well. I know from what I've seen, some people have said, "Oh, really? I love it." Some people can't get away with it. I really, really like it. I've been playing with a mixture. I've been trying to work out what suits us best: keyboard and mouse versus gamepad. What I'm finding is for shooting and for those action sequences, I like keyboard and mouse because obviously the accuracy and your reflexes with a mouse is way better. The driving side of things, I'm finding I'll usually have the gamepad. I'll be sitting with my gamepad playing it, and then I get into a fight. I drop the gamepad and I'm on the keyboard and mouse, and jumping between the two to suit. The driving sequences, while I like the way it feels first person, you can do way more, and you've got way better spatial awareness when you leave it in the old traditional third person.
I couldn't agree more about that. I love cruising around in first person mode when I'm in the car, but when like the shit hits the fan and the cops are coming after you, or you're doing a mission where you've got to do a fast getaway, have to hit it in third person. First person, you don't have the spatial awareness, as you say, and I also find it really slow to look around and look out the windows, and you don't get a very good view looking out the back of the car.
Yeah, or if you're trying to shoot or do a drive-by or something, you've got an action sequence where you're trying to take somebody out when you're in first person in a car.
I'm going to roll back to what you said before about your preference for keyboard and mouse in first person. I find it very, very difficult with the PlayStation controller to play the game in its action sequences in first person. I find that my accuracy suffers a lot over the third person mode as a result of that. It's basically, you get more screen area, and your cursor covers less of it. And because I don't have the pinpoint accuracy that you get with a mouse, I'm constantly overshooting my target or undershooting my target.
Yeah, I found that playing on the PC when I had the gamepad in my hand in first person.
For me, I would say that the first person's a bit of a letdown. I think it would be better if I was playing it on PC. I think it really... First person
would benefit from the
keyboard. It is where PC really shines, and as a result of that, it's not what everything I wanted it to be from that side of things. But that said, the extra graphics, the extra features, the fact that everything's just a little bit nicer, and the fact that I can cruise around in first person when I'm not overly conscious about needing like full efficiency to survive, it has reinvigorated the experience for me quite a bit, and it's made me enjoy the game again, whereas I probably wouldn't want to just replay it flat out exactly the same way as I had before.
Yeah, I get you with that. And it was one of those things when it was coming out in the PC, we had a couple of delays, and that set alarm bells ringing. Usually when developers delay a game a couple of times, you think, what on earth's going on here? And it did cause a little bit of concern for us. But that being said, you know what? I think, if anything, delaying it by about 6 months, what it's done is it's pushed the last time I played it 6 months into the past. So I'm replaying the story, and, I can remember the gist of it, I can remember set pieces and some of the missions, but actually it's give it, as you said, that kind of that refreshed feeling. I've played this game before, but enhanced visuals. First person is nice for us because not only did I play through the story on my PS3, I played... a lot of online multiplayer. I used to load it up, and I'm a sucker for sandboxes. I like to jump in and do daft shit on sandboxes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so I did a lot of that, and actually, it's kind of given a bit of a freshness that goes beyond just having a fresh lick of paint thrown on and some pretty graphics. So you know what? In terms of gaming that I've been doing over the past few weeks, it's not been a huge amount. Been really busy at work, but actually, I've properly caned. In the free time that I've had playing Grand Theft Auto, and it's crazy that I'm playing a game that came out 2 years ago that I played to death. Now,
the one thing I am having a significant problem with is the online mode. I don't know if you've played much online yourself.
I haven't tried it yet.
There's the heists, and they look really cool, but I haven't tried a heist yet. I'm still feeling a little bit rusty. I've only had it a few days, And before I really get into a heist, because it's a team-based game,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
rely
you don't
on you.
like a team
So
down.
I want to brush my skills up. So I thought, what better way to brush your skills up? A few team death matches, or a few single-player death matches or survival games or something like that. And I'm having an absolute pain with finding a populated multiplayer lobby.
Right.
You go in and there's thousands and thousands of people playing, so it's not that there's a lack of players. Maybe there's just far too many game modes on offer. Maybe there's just far too many games.
You find that with a lot of games, though. I mean, there's certain games where you go to play them. Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's been games where I've really enjoyed team deathmatch, or I've really enjoyed objective-based gameplay.
Maybe everyone's just playing heist at the moment.
Yeah, it could very well be that's the case. Like, there was it Chivalry? I think with I found, and I really liked Chivalry, but I found I really enjoyed the objective-based side of things. I like those missions. And I found
like burning down the villages.
Yeah, and I found nobody
castle.
wanted to play that. Everybody wanted to play team deathmatch or free for all. So it became like, actually, the way I want to play it's obviously not kind of particularly popular. So I was finding it really hard to find the servers.
Well, I've tried playing in death matches and races to try and get my skill level up, and I'm finding that I'm sitting in lobbies. I tried to set up a few servers of my own. I'm sitting in lobbies for 5 minutes. One person joins. 5 minutes later, they leave and not getting anywhere. Trying to join other people's lobbies. The biggest populated game I've had so far had 3 players in it.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a disappointment. Maybe I need to try heist mode. Or maybe when the buzz of hype, the hype surrounding heist modes dies down, people start spreading about.
Doing all this stuff. Yeah.
Or maybe there are just matchmaking issues. I mean, who knows? I hope that's not the case.
Well, it's something I'll at some point pick up multiplayer and I'll feedback, and we'll see what happens with that. See if it's any different on the PC.
Well, speaking of multiplayer, let's move on. If you're alright with that.
Yeah. I think I've said my piece on GTA for now.
I would still recommend it, by the way. If anyone had it on Xbox 360 or on PS3, and you've got yourself a PS1 or PS4 or a decent PC, by all means, get cracking with Grand Theft Auto 5. You'll love it. If you've never played it before, there's never a better time to get into it. It's at its peak, especially in terms of the single player content.
If you're looking at downloading it on the PC, if you're going to buy it through Steam as well, just make sure you've got plenty of time on your hands as well, because
Big ass download.
You've got really fast internet. I don't. It took nearly 3 days to get the bastard downloaded, and of course, all the time it was downloading. All of our other internet-based services around the house ground to a halt. As all of our bandwidth was just thrown into Steam to download this gargantuan file, 65.9 megabytes.
I'd have that in 20 minutes.
You'd have that in 20 minutes. It took me, as I said, nearly 3 days, and my missus was trying to do bits of work at home. She was on a works laptop, grinding to a halt, nothing working. We're trying to record some on-demand TV. That was taking forever. You were getting continual buffers. I was trying to watch some YouTube on my iPad. It would keep freezing every 20
Were you trying to watch gameplay videos of Grand Theft Auto
No,
while Grand Theft Auto was
actually,
down?
I wasn't. You know, it's one of those things. I've watched the odd sort of Let's Play, and the few people that I like that were playing it, I watched the odd bit, but I didn't really want to. There was a few people who were doing just like daft sandbox stuff, like quite enjoy that. Rocky Smile put up a great video where he was just driving around on a bike and just weird shit was happening when he crashed at one point, fell about 500 feet into a swimming pool and climbed out, and it was like a hippie just cooking a burger. That was funny, I enjoyed that, but a lot of the other Let's Players were doing the story, and because it had been a while since I'd seen the story,
you didn't want to
I
spoil
wanted
it
to come in totally fresh.
or re-spoil it. Whatever.
Yeah, spoil it for myself, even though I've already
Even though
experienced it.
Yeah.
You know what memories like? It's screwed at the best of times.
We have to move on. We were going to do 15 minutes, and we're sort of nearly at 15 minutes.
You said we were going to do 15 minutes, and I was like, that's a bit fucking short for a podcast. No, I can't talk about everything in 15 minutes if I've got a captive audience.
Let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront.
Cool. Next feature.
We both played Battlefront 1 and 2.
Loads.
I remember you were living at your mum's house.
Yeah,
He's not really sad. He was quite young.
Yeah, I was we were
it was
young,
a long
young
time
to
ago.
mid-teenagers.
It was
Probably
original
15,
Xbox.
16. Yeah.
God, it skipped a whole bloody generation.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were young teenagers. I would come over to yours. We'd get some Galactic Conquest on the go.
Yeah, when we were at university, we'd both come back to our hometown for like summer break. We'd just
Battlefront 2 was one of my most played university games.
Yeah.
Me and the guys loved it. It's where I got my handle Ewok from.
Yeah.
I used to just put my name as my sort of handle for playing games. We're playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, Battle of Endor, co-op, 4 stormtroopers, playing against the rebel forces. when nobody was looking, I changed my name to Ewok. So that I could shoot my teammates in the back of the head with a sniper rifle. One shot kill.
Friendly fire.
They were going mental.
Nobody knows.
I've been killed by an Ewok again! God damn it! Oh, I was a fun. And it just kind of stuck from there. But we've got some great memories of those games.
Totally, yeah.
I've got hours and hours and hours of play. And it was one of the first games that I took online and started playing online. When I had Battlefront 2 and I was getting on there. And honestly, I just loved everything about it. I've still got it on the PC, although I have all sorts of trouble getting it running. I have to do really weird workaround where I have to plug some headphones into the microphone socket in order to get it to work. It's
the joys of PC gaming.
Yeah, it's some sort of bizarre sound card issue with Windows 7.
So you've got to circumvent it with your headphones.
So, have you seen much of the new? There's not much come out yet.
I knew that it was in the works, but I haven't seen anything about it. It's just kind of drifted under my radar, which is weird considering how much the two of us played the original and Battlefront 2.
I was at Gamescom 2 years ago and I went down to the EA stand. Was it 2 years ago? It might even be 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And
was that across in Cologne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in EA and they had like a Star Wars Battlefront presentation. And my God, I was so excited for that. And I queued up, and there were dozens of people there, like press and all sorts. And we went in, and we got like a 3-minute teaser that showed nothing other than the game is coming, and that was it. And then they sort of ushered us out. I'm like, well, what the hell have I got to do here? But now they've released the trailer. The trailer it says in-game engine.
Right.
And then it gives you a very cinematic style trailer,
right.
Which I'll be perfectly honest, it may be the in-game engine, but it's one thing to animate a cinematic in the in-game engine, and it's an entirely other thing
to actually just play the friggin' game.
Show what the actual game looks like.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people might miss the point on that because they go, "Oh wow, look at how brilliant it is," but what you're seeing is a movie.
It's the hype train.
Look at how brilliant the graphics for Final Fantasy cinematics were back in the day.
Watch Dogs.
And the gameplay is not like that.
Yeah.
Although I'm not dissing Final Fantasy because it's always had fantastic graphics, much better than its time.
Yeah.
So they've shown that trailer, and then they've released a few little bits of information about it. In a very bizarre move, marketing-wise, they basically came out and said what you won't be able to do in the game, rather than what you will be able to do in the game. And this has sent the sort of purest fan base, of which I would probably consider myself a member, into an uproar. Basically, they've said, here's the cinematic trailer. By the way, you won't be able to pilot an AT-AT.
Well, that sucks. It's
Obviously,
one of those major cinematic moments in terms of the series themselves, and it's little boys growing up watching Star Wars or being fans of Star Wars. That's kind of one of your dreams. You want to be a baddie in an AT-AT shooting fools up.
And they were badass on Hoth.
Yeah.
When you played them on Hoth.
Trying to shoot down the little sort of snow speeders. And
if you were shooting at them, you had to really go for that neck joint. That was the one weak point, unless you could get in a snow speeder and get that hook around the legs and bring them down. So they said you won't be able to do that. They've said there will be no space battles.
Well, they were my favourite part of Battlefront. Mainly it was Battlefront.
There was Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 introduced the space battles.
Sort of destroyer on destroyer style combat where you're flying across and having a space battle trying to get your fighter into the opposing ship. Well, that sucks instantly.
There will be X-Wings and TIE fighters, and they'll exist on the same map as the ground battle. So
they had that with some of the maps had that, didn't they? Where it was more dogfighting over the skies.
I'd say, bearing in mind it is DICE making this. I'm think more Battlefield in terms of like the jets and that flying around overhead,
which
having their own little battle in the air.
It was fun as well.
It was fun as well. I hope there's more scale than that, because in Battlefield you'd get maybe 2 or 3 jets on a
you
map.
flew 5 seconds past the person you'd made a pass at, and basically you'd left the map, and you'd really have to scramble to get yourself back in before you were destroyed for being out the map.
The third thing that they've announced that there won't be, again, a very bizarre marketing tactic. This is what you want that we're not giving you. No Galactic Conquest mode.
That was probably the thing that we played together most. The two of us playing co-op, Galactic Conquest.
And finally, not necessarily an omission as such, but they've announced that the entirety of the action is going to be confined to 4 planets. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean 4 maps.
But 4 maps
Again.
on different themes of different planets. You can assume you might have a snowy one, a jungly one, a deserty one, a really urban one, something like that.
So what are your thoughts based on that so far?
Certainly from a marketing perspective, and I do bits of that for me, sort of my day job. It seems crazy that you would kind of make your first announcement saying you can't do this. Although in some respects, and I'm not really much of an apologist, maybe I am more than so, but I can understand why somebody would turn around and go, you know what, people are going to be like asking about this for ages, we're going to have to keep putting them off, and then the rumour mill gets going. Sometimes it's better to just set the bomb off before people try and defuse it, and just go, this is what's not going to be there, because we know you're going to be asking for this. But at the same time, it seems strange that means probably, don't know when the release date is, but if you assume...
It's the back end of the year, maybe sort of October, November, something like that.
6 to 12 months, you're going to have people bitching and saying, well, why isn't it? And of
Yeah.
course,
If you watch the trailer, it does tell you when it's released. I'm afraid I've forgotten.
You'll get, and it's one of those things, I don't want to like rubbish people, but you'll get the kind of the keyboard warriors coming out, and they'll make their threads on Steam forums, and they'll be on all the different gaming forums. They'll be making fan reaction videos to go, why isn't this in the game? I'm sure there's loads of them if we booted up YouTube where you could see people just going apeshit about it. And it's not like that's going to make a difference, really, is it? If they've decided and they're designing something, they're not going to suddenly just say, all right, well, we'll shoehorn in space battles. It's a shame. A lot of those features you've mentioned, particularly sort of space-based combat, I absolutely loved. I grew up in 2 of my favourite games.
Actually, I forgot, there's another omission. There's no single-player campaign. There will be single-player missions that you can do on your own or co-op.
But nothing strung together.
But they won't form a cohesive single-player
I
campaign.
tend to play more single-player games than multiplayer. I'm a typical only child. I like playing games by myself. Yeah, it just seems like a strange one. And what I was going to say there is 2 of my favourite games growing up, like really pivotal games in terms of the things that I really enjoy, was X-Wing and was TIE Fighter. TIE Fighter probably more than X-Wing.
Yeah.
But they were amazing, and I'm not saying that Battlefront with its space battles came into the same league, but it gives us that same sort of tingly feeling in my bum that I used to get when I played those games. That kind of like, this feels big, it feels epic. You get a much grander sense of stuff going on than you do when you're playing in, a kind of cramped, jungly or deserty kind of like map, and everybody's kind of firing down corridors and running around COD.
And you see, I was never a huge fan of the space combat. I felt it was very repetitive. It was pretty much the same. Every battle, you'd fly out, you'd shoot a few things down, then you'd start targeting the systems on the ship, or you'd fly into the hangar and try and blow things up from the inside.
Yeah, you're right.
Every ship was identical. It never really did it for me. Most frustrating was the in-galactic conquest mode, where if you went to take a planet and they had a fleet above it, you had to do the space battle, and then you went and did that. And
but for me,
obviously
I used
that's
to
not
love
going to
it.
be an issue.
When we used to be playing games, you would be like, we'll play this map, we'll play Kashyyyk, we'll do this and that. And I was like, let's have a space battle. And you're like, no, we'll play Kashyyyk. And I was like, no, we'll have a space. No, we'll go to Kashyyyk. And I remember like those kind of... never really dawned on us at the time that you weren't as into the space battles as I was, so that's a bit of a revelation. But yeah, I mean, don't get us wrong, as I said, it's not like it was something that was really in-depth, but I just really enjoyed that sensation. It was really, really good fun.
Well, the marketing flubs aside, I think I can understand why people are up in arms, and if I were to take a more emotive point of view, I would say that Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Battlefront 2 were very precious games to me, and I would like to see a lot of similarities and homages to it.
That IP treated with some sort of like respect and dignity for what came before. Those games are important to a lot of people.
It is 2 generations ago. It's a different developer taking it on. I say give them a chance. Let's see what it looks like. It might be really, really good. It might end up being just Battlefield reskinned in Star Wars, which I would hate.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Battlefield, like the sort of the COD versus Battlefield debate, I think it's fair to say we've both very much from the early days been
big Battlefield. Yeah.
We spent so long playing Battlefield 2, bad company. We're playing it,
but I want Battlefront to feel different. I don't want to feel the same.
Yeah.
Because I've played Battlefield and I've played it for years, and I want something different. But that said, they have only really came out and said what they're not going to do. I say, let's just back off, give them some breathing room, and let them come to us and say what they are going to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not going to be the same experience. It is going to be different. But different doesn't necessarily mean bad. It could be really good. And this will be the first EA game I'll have bought in years, because I got the strap on with them after Battlefield 3 and Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
I had nothing but bother with Origin. I hated the DLC strategies. I got the proper lip on. Haven't bought an EA game since Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They've kind of redeemed themselves in my book a little bit in giving away games on Origins for free, and pretty good games as well.
It's a pretty cynical move, but yeah, don't get us wrong. Like, my missus loves Theme Hospital. They put Theme Hospital for free. It was basically my peace offering when I got the PC that'll mount the world. My missus wasn't happy that I'd blew 1,600 quid on a toy.
But I got Theme
But
Hospital.
I put Theme Hospital in it, darling. Look, we're Theme Hospital. And you know what? It's hilarious watching her play. I keep meaning to turn the microphone on and just cover the on-air button and just letting her kind of record her. She's chasing rats around a hospital. But it's mental to think that, like, basically the way that I've kind of sold to the concept of having this super powerful PC is
to play Theme Hospital.
You can play Theme Hospital. It's like 25-year-old plus.
Which it's great that they bloody optimised it so that it works on one.
Yeah. Actually, this weekend I picked up Syndicate as well. Original Syndicate for free on EA. Yeah.
Nice.
That's sitting there. Yeah.
God, look at the tangents, the many tangents. Let's wrap up on Battlefront.
Yeah, I think closing remarks for me is I really haven't heard much about it. It seems like a strange move from marketing, although I can kind of understand where they're coming from in terms of addressing the backlash before it becomes like something that's just kind of like muttered about in forums for months before you then sort of go and do that. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of features there that are being cut. They're really going to have to do something impressive with the IP in order to kind of sell it to us, because at the minute I'm thinking the debacle that was Battlefield 4, I skipped it. As Battlefield 4 came out. Battlefield 3 I enjoyed, not as much as Battlefield 2 Bad Company. I didn't really bother with Battlefield 4. Battlefield 5 comes out and apparently slightly smoother released than Battlefield 4, but still not without its issues. I've lost the sort of the desire for that IP at the minute. Not really that bothered, so it's going to have to be something substantially different and something that's got substantially different features in order to draw us in, especially if the features that I really, really liked from the earlier series, the earlier titles in the series are gone. So, watch this space.
I agree with you on many of those points. I certainly agree with you that I don't want it to just be a reskinned Battlefield game.
Which,
I want it to be something
different. I don't want to be the sort of the cynical part of the partnership.
But part of you thinks that's going to be the case.
It's EA, and EA, no matter the good intentions of DICE, I like DICE as a company and I like what they do. But if EA is behind it, money, get it out the door.
I've got an open mind at the moment. I've got enough love for the previous games that I'm going to keep my eye on this one. I'm going to keep a close eye on it, see how it develops. I'm going to see what good features that they've put in that they advertise over the time.
Do we know what platforms it's coming out on?
PS4, Xbox One and PC.
Cool.
But yeah, I'll keep my eye out, I'll look at it, I'll make a decision close at the time. If I'm still on the fence, I'll let it release and I'll wait a week or two,
but you'll
see
miss,
the reviews,
you'll miss
see the
all
feedback.
those juicy pre-order bonuses that you know that you're going to get with an EA title coming out. How are you going to live with yourself? Custom map and a custom skin. Actually, pre-order bonuses.
They'll release them for like £2.
Yeah, you'll be able to buy them in the first sale that comes up like 6 months after the release. Speaking of pre-order bonuses, it takes one to our next topic that you wanted to talk about, which is Mortal Kombat X, or Mortal Kombat 10, as it should probably be called.
Well, it depends how Latin you want to be about it.
Well,
I suggested that we talk about this one because it seems to be on a lot of people's radars at the moment.
Yeah, it's getting lots of buzz, lots of people talking about it.
Getting lots of buzz, and I know nothing about it. I know absolutely nothing about it because I got bored of Mortal Kombat around about Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate Edition.
Right.
I just got so tired of it.
I was bored of it I'd stopped playing it probably 2 years before that came out.
I mean, no disrespect to anyone who likes it. I would never...
As far as... I'm not much of a fighter fan in general.
I don't mind fighters, and, each to their own. I'm going to say my opinion here. It's only my opinion. If you disagree with me, mate, that's fine. I'm not one of these fucking keyboard warriors, as you mentioned, who thinks my opinion's the be-all and end-all. But I've always found it to be a little bit childish. I loved it when I was a kid, and, I shouldn't have been playing it, and you had all the gore, and you could do the fatalities, you could pull people's skeletons out and shit like that, but it's a little bit too theatrical, and you know what? I'm not the kind of person that is easily offended or gets my neck up about things, or
it doesn't matter how
has like
gory.
a bit of a
It
soft
doesn't matter
stomach.
how gory or visceral you make a game.
Yeah.
If the gameplay underneath isn't particularly exciting, what's the point?
But I remember I watched the fatality video from the last Mortal Kombat, not even this one. I stuck a trailer on. I like watching trailers. I quite often sit and watch trailers. I watch trailers for games I already own.
Yeah.
But I saw a trailer for it, and some fucking fatality came on where the guy like threw some woman to the ground, and then a big circular saw came out.
It's Kung Lao.
Yeah.
It's his hat. He throws it down and pulls
and
the
he
person
pulled the woman
towards
towards it. It was a little bit oddly creepily sexual the way he was pulling her groin towards it.
There's a point I'll make in a couple of minutes
And
about
then-
one of the animations I've
And
seen.
then he sort of split her in half, and he was holding the two halves up, and I thought, that's a little bit too much for me. I don't really see what that gives
No, it's
to me,
it's
other
just,
than
people like the gore, so let's go to the logical extreme of putting so much gore in here that we possibly can.
Yeah, it was
like it's the same analogy can be drawn with Saints Row. Saints Row 1, really enjoyed. Saints Row 2, really enjoyed. Saints Row 3, every attack you do to somebody from behind
punch
is like a comedic nut punch, and it's like, you know what? This isn't for me. Like it's now they've said people like the silly parts of our game. Let's make it really fucking silly.
because Saints Row 1 was very silly, but you could play it straight if you wanted to.
Yeah, and I did. I played it completely straight. I did
I
the same
played like
for
a
the most part.
hardcore, big, bald, black gangster. You're a big, tough man. And then I did the same in Saints
I had a
Row
wiry
2.
Cockney, but he played it seriously.
And then in Saints Row 3, I had this like big, tough, big gangster guy punching people in the cock and hitting people with dildos.
Yeah.
It just ruined the immersion for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with Mortal Kombat for me, in that I say it's gone too far now, but maybe it went too far back then. But back then I liked it, and now I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it's me.
The fact of the matter is, for me, really, the series is 25 years old at this point. I think 95 was when Mortal Kombat first came out.
We were playing. They had. This is so inappropriate, but they had Mortal Kombat 2 in our school youth club.
Yeah.
When we were like 14, 15.
Got us to go to the youth club.
Hot dogs and Mortal Kombat.
Micro fries or whatever they were called. Those like oven, the microwave oven chips. Fries to go.
Fries to go. Still do them. Get nice.
Podcast is not sponsored by Fries to Go.
The tastiest of all microwavable fries.
Bastard. The point that I was going to make was that the franchise at this point is now 25 years old, quarter of a century for Mortal Kombat, and you know, like I'll reminisce. I'm quite happy to go down the schmaltz train. I remember. Can you remember Dickens Garden Centre? It's a garden centre local to Newcastle.
Was it not Dixon's Garden Centre?
It was Dickens.
Dickens
Garden Centre.
Okay, I remember
It's across North Tyneside, which for the uninitiated is kind of like just outside of Newcastle towards the northeastern coast.
Which for the uninitiated is in England.
Which is in England, which is part of the United Kingdom, which is on the planet Earth.
Well, I mean, come on, calm down. It's part of the United Kingdom, which is part of Europe.
Europe, which is part of the European continent, which is part of several continents that form the landmass of Earth. Which
revolves the
We're losing it here. Look, I went to Dickens as a kid. Did you ever go to Dickens as a kid?
Possibly, don't remember.
Right, I used to get excited.
Probably because I'm aware of it.
I used to get excited about going to Dickens as a kid, and it's not because I'm into gardening or DIY particularly. I certainly wasn't then. It's because they had a soft play. When I got a little bit too old to go to the soft play, couldn't go on the ball pool anymore, couldn't go on the slide. What they did have was a couple of arcade machines. They had, I think, Pac-Man. It wasn't Pac-Man World. There was the Pac-Man where you like a 2D figure running along. You jump over cars.
It was Pac-World. You were very close. I think it was called Pac-World. I had that on one of my consoles.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I was thinking of the N64 3D thing that they did. The other one that they had was Mortal Kombat. They had Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat there, and I was a very young teenager at the time. I think maybe. I can't remember how long it came out on arcade cabinet before it came out on the consoles. But it came out, and that was super exciting for me. I can remember sitting there, and I would go into Dickens, my mum and dad would want to do a bit of shopping, they'd give us a couple of quid, I could jump on, there'd be some other kids there, you could play 2-player, you'd play single player.
Good call, mate, it was 95.
95, there we are. And I can remember jumping into it and playing it and really enjoying it. Likewise, in our hometown, we also had a Quasar Laser, one of these like laser battle questy kind of places, that opened up in an old snooker hole that had shut down a number of years ago. They had one, and that was not too far away from where my grandparents parents lived at the time.
Actually, it was 92. How fucking old is that?
Yeah, I think 95, I think, is when it came out on the Mega Drive. It was around for a while, and it was one of those coveted things. Like, if we went to Dickens, I got to play it. If my grandparents maybe give us, like, you know, like £1 pocket money to go and buy, like, a mix-up or something, I'd turn tail.
Play Mortal Kombat for 3 minutes, then die.
Play Mortal Kombat, you get 2 goals for £1, so I'd go and play Mortal Kombat, and, you know, I really, really enjoyed it. And then I can remember that fated Christmas where the game was coming out onto consoles. I had a Mega Drive. It was coming out on the Mega Drive, and I can remember it was during, you know, the console wars and what have you, which I wasn't really a part of, but the idea that it was coming out on the Mega Drive, and the Mega Drive had a cheat code where you could get the blood, and you could put the blood into the game. So my parents didn't want me to have it. I had my older cousin, he was 3 years older than us, and like, he was getting it for Christmas. But my parents were like, "Oh, it's a bit too violent." They didn't know I was playing this game, and they were like, "Well, it's a bit too violent for you." And I was like, "Oh, but they've taken the blood out, so they've made it more suitable for like younger kids to play." And my parents were like, "All right, well, we'll buy them it." And sure enough, Christmas comes along. I've got Mortal Kombat, and being so excited about it, putting the blood cheat in. My cousin came over, the two were playing the game, really enjoyed it, and that was exciting. But it taps into what you said before. It was about childishness. When I was a 12-year-old kid playing it, it was you're punching somebody and you're seeing these like sort of blood sprites fly up, you're pulling people's heads off, pulling the heart out of their chest, all that kind of business. That was great. But the point being, what has Mortal Kombat done since then? In the past 25 years? Nothing. They've maybe added some new characters, taken some old ones out, the graphics have getting a bit of a polish.
Now, to be fair, from what I understand of it, Mortal Kombat is a very, very difficult game to master.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of incredibly complicated moves and combos, and it is
unless you pay for them.
Unless you pay for them,
which we'll get to.
You can only pay for fatalities, mate. Is my understanding. Easy fatalities, so they don't help you win the game. They just give you that little.
And again, I'm thinking of like kiddie politics. When I knew how it was Johnny Cage to go and like kick somebody's head off, and I was playing at Dickens, and this little poser comes up and he jumps on as like Sonya, and then I kick his fucking head off. That was amazing. But it's that idea of if I was standing at the cabinet and I've slipped another 50 pence in, now I hit the big button to kick the head off. I might as well just pay an extra tenner and just say, well, the game can just run as a plain demo.
Well, I guess it appeals to the sort of vicious nature that we were discussing, maybe that element of bloodlust. But as I say, it is a very skill-based game, so I'm not putting it down for that element. People who master that game have dedicated a large amount of time to it, and it's really competitive. It involves a large amount of skill, and it is a genuine achievement to become really good at it. But on the other hand, I just can't find myself wanting to get invested into the game in that level, because it does just put me off the fact that it really is a bit of a horror porn sort of fest.
Yeah, it's got a bit of that going on, but ultimately it's the gameplay. Okay, there's skill needed. You've got to have knowledge about the characters. And
I don't think it is just the gameplay. I think that style, it's not the most important thing, but if the gameplay is solid, style can then make or break it.
Yeah, maybe pushing for that like exploitation kind of thing, but without any of the irony or without anything that comes from watching like 70s exploitation flicks.
Well, there you go. It's something that's hugely on the radar of a lot of people. It's gathering a lot of press. It's very popular.
If people like it,
I just can't get it.
Yeah,
personally.
I mean, good for them. I mean, there's a couple of points that are maybe worth picking up on this as well before we kind of put the topic to bed. Maybe.
Sure thing, mate.
The way that the game has been released, I'm not a big fan of this. And look, like I said before, I'm not an apologist, but I'm probably more tolerant of the behaviour of some games companies than a lot of people. I'm not reactionary. I'm not the first one to take to a keyboard. Look at if we look at something like Attila, and Attila's released so many DLCs in its first 6 weeks. It has pre-orders, and then people are like 2 weeks later, here's a DLC. Week after that, here's another DLC, and people are going apeshit about that and saying, "Oh, how dare they?" I'm not that kind of person, because I fall into the category which says nobody puts a gun to your head and says you've got to buy that.
Attila's great, even if you don't buy the DLC.
Yeah, it's I really enjoy the game, but I mean the point being that it's like paywalls. I don't particularly agree with. I don't like DLC one as a rule, but I understand that if you finish the game and you've got 6 weeks until the game comes out and you've got a team of developers, you might say design some extra shit. And some could argue, well, why not refine and work and develop the game?
There's very much a fine line between...
Yeah, to what extent have you planned this, or to what extent have you said, we've got free resource, let's use it to put something together as an additional
Have you done
thing.
this after the game went gold and you started printing the discs? Or did you have it ready beforehand and held it out of the release, and that's a really hard thing to actually prove or make a judgment call on either way.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. I think with Mortal Kombat, for me in its current incarnation, Goro's held back as a pre-order bonus. You're thinking, well, he's
the classic.
Yeah, he's the classic. You know, you're playing Mortal Kombat, the original. Remember, you got the Goro. Goro was the one that kicked the shit out of you. Mortal Kombat 2, you can play as Goro. That was mind blown, and actually be the guy. And the fact that that's now a classic character, kind of like, if you say it to somebody that's not really aware of the series Mortal Kombat and they've got a vague inkling, they'll probably think of Goro. They'll probably picture Goro, or the dude with like the, you know, like loads of arms and the ponytail. And it just seems strange that they've pulled that off. Some of the DLCs that they've brought out, it's kind of like character packs as well. It just seems a bit of a weird one. Again, there's like character packs coming out as additional things where I think like the full version of Mortal Kombat now costs something like about 80 quid, 90 quid to get all the characters.
That is amazing.
The DLC packs are going for like $15, so regional equivalent about 10 to 12 quid, which is good couple of indie games, or an indie game or two. You get an additional game for that. You're getting 3 characters, you're maybe getting some alternative skins.
You could buy the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, saying.
Yeah, you totally could, you know. And the idea of those characters coming out are kind of like novelty characters, tapping into what we were saying before about it being a bit kind of like cheesy and the style being just a bit kind of odd. But, you know, like characters like Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger, like, oh, here's a Nightmare pack, you can get the... I don't see where that's coming from, and charging that kind of price to get these characters just seems a bit weird. You know, it's a strange kind of practice.
I wonder if your microphone's picking up the ice cream van outside.
With a Benny Hill theme tune.
Ice cream!
Hopefully that doesn't get us a Content ID match for Benny Hill. Jesus.
Well, he's using it. Maybe he paid copyright privileges. Those were some really good points, mate. I wasn't actually aware of the depth of DLC in Mortal Kombat 10.
There's a lot of DLC.
So that's opened my eyes.
Yeah, the game was released like 3 different versions. You had standard version where you get X amount of characters, and then there was like, oh, here's a deluxe version, and then you've got like the premiere version.
You know, I bought the special edition of Fallout 3, and I paid a fair bit extra money for it. And with that, I got an art book.
Mm-hmm.
I got a Vault Boy bobblehead, and I got a Fallout 3 branded lunchbox.
I remember that. You took that to work for years.
I did. Kept me baiting it. But that was great, because those are like real like physical things, and you go, wow, look at these things I've got.
If you're cynical, like collector's pieces, they'll go for a bit on eBay, but that's something physical,
but they're
nice
things
in your hand. Yeah.
If you're talking about digital content, then that is something that's held back.
Something that's probably
that's not
been
DLC. Something that they've taken away
in your original download, and they've given you a code to turn it on. Is basically what's happened.
Which is evidenced by the fact that when you buy it 6 months down the line, you get a 1 kilobyte download.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that wraps up. Do you mind if I wrap this one up? I've got a couple of things I'd like to say on the way out.
Yeah, I think that's fine. At some point, we do need to talk about Warhammer Total War as well, though. But I think probably what we'll do is we'll just say it's out there. As of yesterday, a trailer came out, 3-minute trailer.
There's not much you can say.
Not really much going on
except
there.
The fact that I creamed my pants a little bit. I mean, we've known it was coming for a while. We know that...
We didn't know for definite it was going to be an actual Total War game. We still don't know for definite how it's actually going to look.
We knew that Sega had bought the rights to make a Games Workshop game, and we knew the creative assembly was
there was an Easter egg in
that.
The art book came out that had an Easter egg in there where they kind of made allusion to Warhammer as well. So,
but I haven't seen a damn thing about it, but I'll be buying it.
Yeah, I mean, 3.5-minute trailer. If you haven't seen it already, just Google it and you'll find the trailer. It's all over all the different game websites, all over YouTube. Go and have a bit of a look. It's a cinematic trailer. They're keeping their cards very close to the chest. In terms of release date, all it says is coming soon, so that might be 6 months down the line, might be much longer.
They might have just started.
I would assume, from the looks of it, I don't think Attila's sold particularly well. So I'm guessing maybe Creative Assembly will kind of get that out the door a little bit sooner rather than later.
That could be risky. It could be risky.
Could be, but
remember when Rome came out and it wasn't quite ready.
Yeah, well, Attila still needs balancing. It's a solid game, but there's
it had a hell of a smoother release than
certainly
than
did. Campaign's really good, but it's got some balancing issues, and I think certainly the other thing is as well the amount of scope for Warhammer. I think it's not just a case of saying let's design factions. They can't get away with like an Attila style copy paste of saying here's a bunch of like Germanic or Nordic rosters. Because you can't do that when you've got orcs and you've got humans and you've got dwarves, and I think there's a undead sort of vampiric faction that they've announced. There's like 4 major factions that they're working on. What I'd like to see is maybe a breakdown of different factions. So they're saying a human faction, maybe having like the Empire, maybe having Breton, maybe having something like that, you know, maybe having dwarves, but having like dwarves as different clans. No announcement of Chaos, but you know it's set up prime for DLC and extra rosters coming out. You know, it's a complete cash cow for it, as is the original, as is the original Warhammer and Games Workshop franchise. Here's a new race. The book costs 50 quid, and here's an army for them. The models are twice as expensive as the rest of them, but they're super powerful.
I remember I was in Games Workshop once. I went in to buy some orcs. Yes, I played Games Workshop games. I'm that sad.
The two we did as kids.
I went in. I wasn't playing the game anymore. I just wanted to get some figures and paint them.
I did that a couple of years ago. I bought some knights just so I could paint them.
But I went in, and this was me picking it up after years and years away from it. So I thought, I'm just going to get myself a few orcs, some cool models, and I'm going to paint them up. So
you were like me, you enjoyed painting them almost as much as playing it.
I was standing there, and as the staff in Games Workshop do, they immediately came sniffing up. Oh, can I help you with anything? Have you seen the new Imperium Codex? Oh, it's brilliant, it's brilliant. And he went, have you seen the new paintbrushes? And I went, what? And he went, we've got new paintbrushes coming out next week. They're excellent. And I thought, they're fucking paintbrushes.
How good can a paintbrush be?
What, have they got Bluetooth or something? I'm alright, mate. I'll just buy the paintbrushes you've got now. Oh, the new ones have got 1 extra bristle. What the fuck was he going on about? Never mind. Tangent. We'll wrap up now.
I think so. Yeah, we'll talk more about Warhammer Total War as stuff is released. So that's probably a while off.
I'm going to struggle to find some sort of imaging to put over here. So you've probably been sitting for 45 minutes staring at the Gonzo Ewok logo.
Well, it's a podcast. If you see the word podcast, we probably should have qualified the start of this.
Think radio.
Yeah. You probably should be doing something else with this on in the background if you want to put up with 45 minutes plus of our voices.
Well, we've been Gonzo and Ewok. Before we leave you, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. It kind of ties back to what we were talking about in Star Wars Battlefront. You'll all have seen the new Star Wars trailer for the movie coming out at Christmas. You'll all be getting super excited about it. Grown men crying, people making silly bloody clip videos with Matthew McConaughey. And I just want to say one thing, ladies and gentlemen. Remember Phantom Menace. We've been Gonzo and Ewok. This has been our podcast, sponsored by Fries to Go, the finest crisps that make... You distracted me!
Of course I did.
We're sponsored by Fries to Go.
We went off. Bye.